All right, hello everybody. This is Miss Pie. Yesterday we left off when we were graphing. I think pretty much every class plotted all the points, and I told you to connect the dots. And when you connected all the dots, your graph should look something like this. A couple things to note. Number one, you have minimum points here and here. You have a maximum point here. Okay, and we're not going to go through all the questions on this packet, mainly because my focus with this is making sure you understand how to use your data to um, create a scatter plot, basically something that looks like this, and then connect the lines or connect all the points with the line so that we can come up with a formula that would create this graph. Okay, so what we're going to do now, and um, you can do this work on any of the blank space on the worksheets because we're really not going to go over any of the other questions on the worksheet. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is to find your A value, your D value, P, B, and C for a sine function and a cosine function. And this is kind of a review from last week. And so again, I've went ahead and took our values from our chart for our time and our height, and I put them right here so to make it easier for us. And if you recall from last week, to find your A value, you need to take your maximum minus your minimum, and these are your Y values. So it will help if you remember that our time is our X and our height is our Y. So we're going to take our maximum here and our minimum here, and we are going to find the difference. So we're going to subtract them, and then we're going to divide by 2. So the formula to find A is maximum minus the minimum divided by 2. And when you do that, you can plug it all into your calculator, and you should get 150 over 2, which equals 75. So your amplitude, or your A value, is 75. Now to find your D value, very similar. It's going to be the maximum plus the minimum divided by 2. So the only difference between your A formula and your D formula is your sign. And 165 plus 15 gives you 180 divided by 2 gives you 90. Okay, so now we found our A value and we found our D value. Now we want to find the period length. Okay, so remember, your period is the distance from one minimum to the next minimum, or from one maximum to the next maximum. Now we don't have two maximums here, but we do have two minimums, and the distance is 30. Okay, so my period length is just going to be 30. And then to find your B value, it's going to be 2 pi divided by your P, so 2 pi divided by 30. And when I simplify that, I'm going to have pi over 15. So that's how we found our B value. Now, to find our C value, it's going to be a little bit complicated. We want to graph, let me see. There, that's what we want to do. Remember how we found our sinusoidal line, or we found our D value was 90, so that tells us where our sinusoidal line is. So we're going to graph our sinusoidal line at 90. And you can see that there's two spots where you intersect where the graph intersects the sinusoidal line. And if you sketch this fairly accurately, then you should be able to get a rough idea of what the X value is right there. Okay, so right here it's approximately, let's see, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7.5. Okay, so I'm going to totally guess right now that it's 7.5. Okay, so but I don't want to just say, hey, it's definitely 7.5, let's go with it. I'm going to check my work to see if it is indeed 7.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our work. Now remember, if you can remember, the way we found our angle was we multiplied our time And remember, your x is your time value. So we multiplied our time by 12, and we got our angle. So 7.5 times 12 is 90 degrees. And then to find the height, it was of the vertical line, it was 75 times cosine of 90 degrees, our angle right here. And when we plug that all into the calculator, we would get a 0. Then to find how high off the ground we were going to do 90 minus our vertical height of 0, and we end up with a 90. So what that's telling me is that this is my y value when x is 7.5. Okay, so, and I want to have a y value of 90 when x is 7.5. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So this is going to end up being my c value because this is the first spot where my sinusoid or my sine graph hits the sinusoidal line and it's going up. So don't forget, for your sine function, your c value is wherever your graph hits the sinusoidal line and it keeps increasing. So my x value is 7.5 for that one. Now, to find the c value for cosine is going to be much easier. We don't have to do any of that. We can just either look at our table here or look at our graph, and my maximum point, whoops, I just moved my graph. My maximum point is right here at 165, or a height of 165 meters, and my time is 15 minutes, which makes a lot of sense because it takes me 15 minutes to go up and then 15 minutes to go back down. All right, so for my cosine function, my c value, it's just going to be 15. Now, once I have my a, my b, my c, and my d value, I can go ahead and plug in the equations. Okay, so I have my a value is 75, so it's going to be, for my sine function, it's going to be 75 times sine of my b value, which is pi over 15, times x minus my c value, which is 7.5, and then double parentheses, and then plus my d value, which is 90. And if you can remember, your a, b, and d values are going to be exactly the same. So 75, 75, pi over 15, pi over 15, and 90 over 90. Your a, b, and d values are the same for the sine and cosine functions. The only things that change are your c values, and we found that for my sine function, c was 7.5. For my cosine function, c was 15. All right, so we just created an equation to model the graph by hand. Okay, now we want to use these data, or this data again, and plug it into a spreadsheet on the calculator, and then have the calculator give us a sinusoidal regression. Okay, and then we're going to see how well we did with our handmade graph. Okay, so I have a file on all the calculators, and guys, yes, I did save the files already. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is before you go try to find your document on the calculator, if the current is highlighted, I want you to click on it, and most likely you'll see the file, it'll say Singapore Flyer, and all this stuff will already be done for you. So the lazy ones of you in my class are probably just going to keep it open and you won't do any work because it's already been done. If you do this, you will totally bomb the project. So don't take the lazy way out right now. I want you to work through this and make sure you know how to do it. Okay, so go ahead, If there's a file already open, click on it, push Control W, and if it asks you if you want to save, click No. Okay, so once you close whatever file is open, go ahead and go to My Documents, find your class period, open it up, and you'll see another file there for you to use. Okay, so go ahead and open the file, and when you open it, you should just have this. You should have just one tab, and you should have the title Time and Height there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to fill in these columns with the information from our tables that we did yesterday. And now a couple things. Hopefully some of you remember that instead of entering lots of data over and over and over again, that you can just set up equations. So we're going to do the equation, and we're going to say do A1 plus 3 for our hours, because we increased our, or not hours, but our time. And we can do that because we increased our time by 3 minutes every single time. And then we can copy this formula, and we just did Control in the center of the mouse pad, and then we're going to scroll down, and let's see, we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we should be down at 10. Let me see. Is that the right amount? Nope. I need to go one more. Let me do it just one more. So you should have all the way down to 30. Okay, remember you don't want to go past 30. If you did, you need to go ahead and delete it. Make sure you delete it completely. Now for the height, there's two ways to do it. You can just enter the information in here, or you can be more exact. Because right now I'm not super worried about you being super precise. I'm more concerned with knowing how to enter the data into the spreadsheet and do the regression. Hopefully you guys still remember this. Okay, so right now I just want you to fill in your heights, or the distance from the ground. And yes, I know these are all rounded answers, and normally I don't like rounded answers, but this time it's going to be okay. So just fill in your values from your table exactly the way I have them on my board. If you want to type in a whole bunch of decimals, I guess you can. Your formula might be slightly different than mine, but no big deal. Right now, I'm more concerned about you knowing how to find the formulas. All right, so we should have our table columns all filled out. And notice that I don't have any extra data here. I don't have any missing values there. I should be good now. I'm ready to do a couple things. Number one, I can enter a spreadsheet if I wanted to, or not a spreadsheet. I can insert a scatter plot, and I can look at the data. And sometimes I like to do that just to make sure I haven't messed up and like transpose some of the numbers. So for instance, let's say we were planning on doing 29 here, but we said 92 instead. Then if you insert a scatter plot, it should be readily apparent that you messed up there. So to do that, you go to Control Doc and insert a scatter plot. Make sure you label your x-axis was our time, and our y-axis was our height. And notice how this point just kind of sticks out in the, we have everything in this smooth, nice pattern, and then this point is way off in left field. So that's an indicator that says, hey, this point is messed up. Then all you have to do is go back, fix it, fix the point that you need to, and then when you click back to your scatter plot, all is right in the world. And you can see how it makes this nice little sine curve. All right, so now that we've confirmed that all of our data is entered correctly, we can go ahead and do our regression. Hopefully you guys remember how to do this. Go to Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations, and we are going to do a sinusoidal regression. Okay, go ahead and click on it. Hopefully you guys remember this. You have to tell the the calculator that X is our time and Y is our height, and then just click on OK, and it does all the work for you. Now, notice your A, B, C, and D values. Okay, our D value was 90. They've put a D value of 89.75. Our C values, we had two different ones. This time we only have one. Our B value is in decimals, not in terms of pi. And our A value, instead of being 75, which was what we got, they have 74.8. So don't be surprised if the formula is slightly off than yours. But if we go ahead and insert a graph, oh, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to go to Document, Insert, and Graphs. Okay, remember that we start on F2 because F1 is where the calculator was that we just had. And once you scroll up to it and just push enter, and it will be on your board or on your graph, but you notice there's nothing showing up. Reason why? You have to change your window. Okay. Hopefully you guys remember how to change windows, and hopefully you remember to look at your information to help determine what type of window you'll need. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our window menu, window settings. Okay, your time, your lowest time is 0. So we could do, we're probably going to do increments of 3. So let's do -3 for our X minimum. And our X maximum, let's do, you know what, we want a little bit more than 30. Let's do 33, and with a scale of 3. And then now my Y minimum, let me see, we're going to go from 15, we're going to go from 0, because yes, I know the lowest it goes is 15, but I want to go to 0, to our maximum's 165, so let's do 175. And I'm thinking either 5 or 10 or even 25 would it be a good Y scale. Either one of those. When you push enter, this is what you get. Okay? And you can see that it's a nice curve. And some of you are probably thinking, yes, but how does it compare to the graph that we created or to the formula we created? And let me pull up the formulas that we created. All right, so we came up with these two equations. When you do the regression with the calculator, you're only going to get a sine function. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and graph my sine function on here. And it's going to be 75 times sine of pi over 15, pi divided by 15 times x minus, see, it was minus 7.5 and then plus 90 at the end. So minus 7.5, 2 close parentheses, and then plus 90 at the end. Okay, when you do that, even though our numbers look like they were really off, you know, if you compare these, our numbers look like they're completely and totally different, right? But if you look at the graphs, they intersect pretty close to the exact same spot. There's a little bit of difference around my maximum point. There's a little bit of difference over here, but the formulas are really close together. So guys, when we're doing the projects, and I'm sure you guys are going to talk to each other and say, hey, what did you get for the formula? Don't be surprised if your numbers, like if you look at this, we have a negative 1.57, and up here we have a negative 7.5. Don't be surprised if that happens. Okay, some of you might realize that the calculator does not separate your B value the way I've shown you guys how to do. They keep the B value together. Okay, so you can have some formulas that look totally different, but when you graph them, they're going to look very close together. All right, So I think that's the end. Make a couple things you need to remember how to do for the project is number one, how to look at your data and find your A, B, C, D, and period. So let me get rid of all this stuff. Make sure you know these formulas. Make sure you remember or you have the paper that has all the formulas on it. I think it was page 232. I'm just saying that off the top of my head, but I could be off by a page or two. Okay, make sure you have that paper. Make sure you know how to set up your equations. I will tell you on the project, you're not going to have to do all the really weird calculations that we had to do for this table. I'm going to give you the data and you're just going to set it up in a table on the computer with an Excel program. You'll set up a scatter plot and everything, and then you'll go from there with figuring out your A, B, C, D, and period length. All right, hopefully you guys are good and you're ready for the project. We are going to be meeting in Miss Jensen's classroom. Her and I are switching classrooms for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday so that you guys can have access to all the computers in there. Make sure you know how to log on to your Schoology account. You'll need it for this next project. And I will see you guys on Wednesday in Miss Jensen's classroom. I will send out a reminder to remind you guys. All right, goodbye.